Hey everybody, welcome to this part 2 on discounted cash flow analysis. Today we'll be looking at doing the various calculations with your data. So the two things that we look at, or the two variables that we'll work with today, is the rate, and that's your internal rate of return, and of course your net present value. Okay, so these are shared values for the calculations. And then make sure that your BGN or N setting is not available for discounted cash flow analysis. All right, so the net present value is the total present value of all cash flows, including cash paid out and cash received. And if you have positive net present value, you're obviously profitable. Your internal rate of return is the interest rate that gives a net present value of 0. So, as I always like to say, before you begin, press cash flow second function mode to clear all the values inside your cash flow analysis so that you can create a new set of values. So here's our first one. It says, at what internal rate of return does the net present value of the below cash flow equal 0? So you first spent $12,000, and then you have $3,000, $5,000, $5,000, $5,000, $4,000. So your first step is obviously to input this cash flow data, and we'll go through that now briefly on the calculator. And then your second step is to calculate your internal rate of return. And so you'll start off by pressing second function cash flow information, or you'll see the cash flow analysis there at the top. You'll set all your default variables inside this to default, and that's just pressing second function mode, and then you'll calculate the new internal rate of return by pressing comp. All right, so let's do that together now on the calculator. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is empty out any old cash flow analysis values. So we're going to press our cash flow button and then simply say second function and mode, and that will delete all of the old values that we had. Right, now we're going to enter the cash flow analysis data. So we press on first just to make sure we're in normal mode, and then we press the integer or plus minus button, 12,000, and then enter. Then we're going to type in 3,000 and enter. There were 3 values of 5,000 each, so we're going to write that in as a frequency of 3 and enter. And then our last value was 4,000 and enter. Right, now that we've got that data, we can press on to exit the cash flow data input. Now we wanted to calculate the internal rate of return. So to do that, we're going to first press second function and then press our cash flow button in order to calculate the new stuff. So you can see I've got something old here. So to clear that away, we press second function and mode to reset everything. And now to calculate our internal rate of return, we simply press comp, and you can see that it is now shown on the screen. Again, before we begin our next example, remember to press cash flow value first, and then second function mode to clear all the values inside your cash flow analysis. So here's our second example. There was quite a lot of expenditure before we started seeing some cash flow inwards. So let's input these now into our table. You'll see here that 60,000 is 80,000 minus 20,000. So that's where that last 60,000 comes from. And then we're going to calculate the net present value. And so again, we'll follow the same sort of steps that we did before. We'll say second function cash flow. We'll set all of our variables to default again by pressing second function mode inside that cash variable analysis, and then we'll enter the discount rate, which will be, instead of calculating our internal rates, we'll then give it a net rate, right? And then we can calculate our net present value by pressing down to find the net present value and comp, and that will then show it to us. So let's do that now on the calculator as well. Right, so the first thing that we always need to do is to clear out the old cash flow data. So we're going to just say cash flow second function mode, and that will empty it out. And then, of course, on it to make sure that we're in normal mode. Now we input our cash flow data point. So our first one is negative 50,000. And there are two of them, so we're going to press X, comma, Y in brackets, and 2, and enter. There we go. Our next one is 150,000. It's negative 150,000, and enter. Then we have 80,000, which was repeated 4 times. So X, comma, Y in brackets button, and 4, and enter. And our last value was 60,000, and enter. Right, now that we've got that, we can press on to exit our data input screen. Now to find the net present value, we're going to press second function on our cash flow button, and you'll see that we've got rates here. So we're just going to second function and mode to clear away any old stuff that was previously there that might confuse things. Then we're going to enter our discounted rate of 12. So we press 12 and enter. Press your down arrow key to get our net present value. And we're going to press comp to find that it is $6,627 in this example. Right, thank you so much for joining us. Our next video will cover bond calculations, so keep an eye out for that. Cheers for now.